It looks like the Chinese yuan is making some headline as a new financial order is quietly taking shape. Looks like the BRICS launches a yuan payment system across 185 countries. And that, my friends, is worth touching on. All right, so I want to take a minute, share some thoughts in reference to some headlines that caught my attention. So, of course, beyond the Cloudflare situation right now where a lot of internet sites are down, one particular site is up, and it has everything to do with the current de-Americanization strategy, as it's referred to in an article here, in reference to how the Chinese renminbi, aka yuan, is pressing forward. And because of all the distractions here in the Western Hemisphere, it's not talked about in the mainstream media. And so it looks like other nations, approximately 185 countries or so, all are working towards diversifying away from the Federal Reserve note, aka the dollar system. And this just plays more into the de-dollarization concept that is slow and progressive, but yet gets no attention in the Western Hemisphere, while everyone's distracted by politics, cryptocurrency, you name it. And so in this video here, I want to share my 2 cents. So as always, if you guys want to see more of these quick takes, hit that thumbs up button, show your support for the channel. Feel free to share thoughts, ideas, suggestions in the comment section. Definitely would love to see what you're keeping your eyes on. And if you're new, make sure you subscribe, hit that bell notification so you'll be notified when we put out a video. So let's just jump right into it. So Kim.com 12 hours ago posted this picture here. It says BRICS launches yuan payment system across 185 countries. And so Kim.com, if I'm not mistaken, is a tech individual in New Zealand, Australia, but yet was under heavy scrutiny by the U.S. regulatory bodies for basically providing some backdoor options and privacy type things. So he's been in the media over the last decade or so, but not for good reasons. But he's one of those individuals that tends to speak the truth and fights for freedom and liberty. And so definitely I keep an eye on him. And when he posted this, I'm like, oh, I didn't hear about this at all over the last couple of days. So I decided to look it up, and this is what we got here. So here's an article here from the BRICScooperation.com, and it came out last month. And it says yuan-based payment system. And then it says a new financial order is quietly taking shape. So it goes on to say the BRICS China Financial Initiative is a strategic move to promote currency autonomy and internationalize the yuan, marked by the launch of the yuan payment system across 185 countries amidst ongoing de-dollarization discussions. And so just to give you an idea what's going on here, I'll thumb through it brief. And of course, just feel free to just Google or search for the article yourself. But it says the BRICS strategy extends far beyond simply offering cheaper loans. It says the ultimate goal is to build a comprehensive parallel financial ecosystem that can operate independently of the dollar-centric model. It says the launch of the yuan payment system across 185 countries is a cornerstone of this effort, creating the plumbing for international transactions outside the traditional Western-led systems. And then if you click on this tab here to take you to an article that gives you some insight into the China-South Africa Bank Seal First Yuan loan deal to boost African development. So this took place back in July of this year. And once again, unless you were looking for this, the mainstream media in the Western Hemisphere would not have told you this. But of course, I've been talking about how China has been spreading the yuan in reference to utilizing some of the things set up by the Cooperation Bank and all the infrastructure by the BRICS itself. And so this obviously is one of them, but it says the China Development Bank and the Development Bank of Southern Africa signed a loan agreement with 2.1 billion or $290 million. It says marking the first yuan-denominated financing cooperation between the two institutions, according to the CBD on Wednesday. And of course, as a result of South Africa signing this deal, over the last several months as well, Trump administration has been very harsh towards South Africa, and the cover has been the way that South African have been treating some of the white farmers there. And so that's been a part of the rhetoric coming from the Western Hemisphere, where Donald Trump has decided to put pressure on South Africa. But that's what they're telling us. But yet on the other side of the equation, this is some things that they're doing, which would lead me to believe that this is probably more in line with why the U.S. is probably trying to pressure South Africa. What it says here, this agreement was signed on Tuesday during the 2025 BRICS Interbank Cooperation Mechanism annual meeting, which took place as part of the broader 17th BRICS Summit held in Rio de Janeiro. Okay, so just to give an idea, that's one deal signed in yuan. It says this is just one piece of a much larger puzzle. It says other initiatives includes a broad and strategic vision, including Russia's proposal for a BRICS grain exchange to counter the Chicago Mercantile Exchange and ongoing discussions around the BRICS new gold settlement architecture. And so once again, new gold settlement architecture. These four words here are something I'm sure that has a lot to do with the recent activity when it comes to the gold surge. And if I just look at gold price as of right now, the recording of this, we're looking at $4,000 an ounce gold. And of course, gold has been climbing steadily over the last year. To give you an idea of what we're looking at for those who might be coming across this for the first time, we'll just go out for the last year. And on the screen here, you can get an idea as to how it's stuff like this that can spook the Western Hemisphere and put more pressure on the U.S. government and Europe to try to do something to divert attention off of the diversification away from U.S. liabilities. Okay, but it says here, combined, these efforts represent a deliberate and coordinated move toward what one source calls the de-Americanization strategy. So think about that. We've been used to hearing de-dollarization, but now it's been coined as the de-Americanization strategy. Something worthwhile. It says a new financial system emerges. Then it goes on to give more insights, give some key stats, dollar signs, figures, interest rates, and it has a lot to do with establishing loans denominated in the yuan. It says the BRICS economic bloc is actively advancing its de-dollarization strategy primarily through the promotion of yuan-denominated debt restructuring and financing. And so yuan-denominated debt restructuring and financing. So as of right now, everything in the world is priced in USD terms. All the debt that has been issued and supported by the U.S. and Western Hemisphere is denominated in U.S. dollar terms. And so what it looks like China is doing is helping to either refinance some of that USD debt or establishing new lines of credit, aka loans, denominated in the yuan. And so it says this is evidenced by Ethiopia's recent negotiations to convert a portion of its $5.3 billion dollar debt into yuan-denominated loans with Chinese state banks. And so here you have this dollar sign, $5.3 billion. And so taking the U.S. debt and refinancing it in a yuan-denominated loan. That right there offers options out of the Western-led unipolar order that has been in place since the establishment of the Federal Reserve note, aka the dollar system, especially after it was broken from gold in '71. It says this move follows a successful precedent set by Kenya, which secured an annual savings of $215 million USD and a significant interest rate reduction from 7.25% to 3% through a similar debt swap. So literally, Kenya has saved, as it says here, $215 million USD by converting their debt to yuan-based and having gone from 7.25 interest down to 3%. So not only has the debt become more serviceable by Kenya, but it's also being served in an entirely new currency as they swapped it out. So the primary economic driver for this shift is a substantial interest rate differential between China's 3% prime rate and the U.S. rate of 7.25. So there you have one of the primary reasons why it's a no-brainer for nations to swap out their USD debt for the yuan debt, because you get to save on interest costs. You go from 7.25 down to 3%. That's a no-brainer. And so you better believe the Western Hemisphere has taken note of that, because once again, it will make the U.S. liabilities, aka our debt instruments, less attractive, because the world will no longer need them as an asset or a reserve holding in order to service their USD debt that has been issued to these countries. And so now, if it's denominated in yuan, that means less need for U.S. foolishness. And so the article goes on to talk about yuan-denominated debt restructuring and finance, and it gives key figures, dates, countries, things of that nature. But these are just some things that you won't hear about from the mainstream media, because once again, I'm sure you haven't heard about the interest rate differential that is the big deal here. And so it says the most significant driver is the stark difference between the benchmark lending rates in China and the United States. This arbitrary opportunity offers substantial savings for debtor nations. So literally, this alone is more than enough of a reason why nations will jump ship and continue the de-dollarization, slow and incremental shift away from U.S. liabilities into diversifying using the yuan, aka the renminbi. And this will definitely put the BRICS nations more in front and center, where nations that are beyond their limitations of servicing U.S. debt, they're going to be able to roll it over into yuan debt. And that, my friends, is a slow incremental de-dollarization or de-Americanization strategy that is underway that you might not have even heard of. But anyway, just taking a minute, sharing my 2 cents. Curious to hear what you guys think about this. Will this pick up? Will this be stopped? Who knows? Drop a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. And as always, I don't want to bring this information without presenting opportunities to consider. Just scroll down in the description for some possible alternatives on how to de-dollarize yourself as well. Getting out of the old and jumping into some new options, whether it be gold card, silver, or gold backs. Either one. All the information is in the description. Catch you later.